Hello, this is Nelson Olmsted. Today, with apologies to Mr. Chaucer, we have a modern version of the Miller's Tale. But now, Clint Gruber's ready with a word from Pacific Power.
Welcome once again to Stories of Pacific Powerland, a presentation of Pacific Power and Light, the company that has been serving the electric needs of the region's homes, farms, and industries through more than half a century of progress and growth. Here's Pacific Powerland's favorite storyteller, Nelson Olmsted.
The smooth-flowing waters of the Calapooya River, a tributary of the Willamette in the Oregon country, looked just right to Richard Finley on that day back in 1858. Finley, a miller and a mill builder by trade, surveyed the site with a practiced eye and said to himself, "Nothing to stop a man from digging a mill race just here. They take the water out of the river yonder, channel it back and around the bend, plenty of water to turn the wheels, and the mill should be situated right here." Well, Richard Finley and his two partners, P.V. Crawford and Billy Simmons, acquired the necessary land and water rights and set crews to work to build one of Oregon Territory's first flour mills. And the mill partners, along with other settlers of the Willamette Valley, planned a town which they named Boston. The flour mill, as it rose, was called Boston Mills. The future seemed quite certain and prosperous to these pioneer folk. One of them said, "Yes, sir, Boston might turn out to be the center of the whole valley one of these days. We've already got a flouring mill and a stage stop. You just watch this place grow when the railroad comes through in the 70s. But the future of Boston, Oregon, was not as clear-cut as its founders hoped. The railroad tracks were laid 1.5 miles to the west at a settlement called Shed Station. The post office and most of the business firms moved there to be near transportation. Soon, there was little left of Boston except Boston Mills, its water wheels churning out the power to grind grain into flour. And those water wheels were seldom still. More and more settlers came to the Willamette Valley. More and more ovens baked more and more loaves of homemade bread. By the early 1890s, the area had grown so much that Boston Mills was just one of 13 mills operating in Lynn County. That's when Martin Thompson came through looking for a new location. He said, "I've been running a mill in Champoeg. Well, spun it out last year. Need a new start, and this place looks just about right to me." Well, within 2 years, Martin Thompson was the sole owner of Boston Mills. He launched a family enterprise that is still operating 3/4 of a century later. For nearly 20 years, Martin Thompson ran the mill himself. When he passed away in 1910, his son Otto came from Seattle with his family to take over the miller's job. It was then that the Thompson's flouring mills entered the period of its greatest change and greatest prosperity. The great water wheels beneath the mill continued to churn. The gear-driven belts continued to drive the machines that ground flour, cereal, and livestock feed. Otto Thompson operated the mill for more than 50 years. On his death in 1965, the management was turned over to the third generation, Merle Thompson, who says, "Yes, people stopped baking at home. Farmers in the valley cut down on wheat raising, so we changed our ways, too. Now we're exclusively in the livestock feed business. We make 16 different kinds of mixed feeds, and I might mention we grind and mix with the same old water wheels." Which goes to show that you don't need to be old-fashioned just because you've been around over a century. Thompson's Mills, near Shed, Oregon, is a good candidate for the state's oldest industry, and it's keeping pace with the times all the same.
Thanks very much, Nelson.